What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. If you're in the know, you guys will know that I recently just passed my driving test, and I documented the whole thing, the ups and downs, over a 3-week period. I literally just posted the video a few days ago, so please check it out to have a bit of more understanding on my situation driving. But in today's video, I'm just going to outline some things that I wish that I did, or things that I did do that helped me pass my driving test relatively quickly, understanding that I did start in the pandemic and all that, starting with the theory and ending with the practical. So let's go. So first things first, I did my theory test as soon as I could. I turned 17 during the lockdown, so I couldn't do it the day after my birthday or something like that. But literally the second or third day that the test centers were open, I did my theory test and I passed first time. My mom and dad, they sorted it out for me basically, and they told me a month or over a month in advance that they booked the test for me. So initially I was slacking off a little bit, and I only waited till 3 weeks before the test before I actually started studying using this app. I'm gonna put it somewhere on your screens. It does cost a little bit of money, but it is worth it, guys. I literally just did mock test after mock test after mock test. I did it quite differently to some people that I know. Some people did it by sections and the occasional mock test, but literally all I did was mock test the whole stretch. First, I would fail them all, and I failed the first 5 or something. Then I would start passing the occasional one, and then start passing more, and then I got pretty confident with it. A tip that I wish that I did for my test is that I wish I'd completed all the possible questions before going to the test. At first I was doing the mock test all the time, and then once I started passing them consistently, I kind of slacked off, not gonna lie, and I didn't complete all the questions. So when the actual test came, I low-key was unprepared, and I just scraped a pass. By the skin of my teeth, by 1 mark or something. So if you guys are trying to avoid that, you know what to do. Make sure you've done 100% of all the questions and gotten them all right consistently. You really should be passing this first time, because most of it does make sense. But let's move on. Now, learning how to drive. So I'm fortunate that my dad, he's got a manual driving license, and he got me this little beater up car to help me learn how to drive. And that's how I picked up the basics, really. The basics of clutch control with a petrol car, right turns, left turns, all that nonsense. In essence, you don't really need a driving instructor. Let me explain, and I hope this analogy makes sense. So if you're playing basketball or football with the boys, yeah, you guys know the rules. That's like you driving with your relative and that, and playing an actual game with a referee that is tight with the rules is having a driving instructor or your driving test. What I'm trying to say is that if you drive with your parent or whatever the same way that you would drive with an invigilator, that's still gonna improve your driving. And in order to pass your driving test, you need to be comfortable in the car and have confidence, which only comes with experience. So that's just a way that you can save money basically. If you've watched the video that I made, I'm not sure if I go into the details, but essentially I felt the first driving instructor that I had 2 by the way, was milking me for money basically, because I felt that I was experienced and he was just talking all the time about these little things. Eventually we went our separate ways, but that's what I'm trying to say. You don't always need to be with a driving instructor 24/7 to improve. So if I'm being 100% honest with you guys, I can't just tell you guys 1 or 2 things that will help your general driving. I'm just gonna talk about my experience really. So surprisingly, something that was bugging me close up to my driving test was actually hill starts. Let me explain myself really. It's not always that I would struggle on it, but if it was a flat hill, or if I had to change gear, I would struggle low key. But you know how it is. The more you do it, the more you improve. I did it with my driving instructor, and I did it with my auntie as well. Hopefully you guys have watched the first video I made about driving, and this will all make sense. So with the first instructor I had, the first thing we did was do the maneuvers. Quite straightforward. It took a couple of lessons for me to nail them all completely, and then from there we were just working on my general driving. That's what I was on about earlier. I think he was taking the piss really, saying that I need to work on my general driving, because I did think I was alright, but we're not going to talk about that. So after not doing the maneuvers for quite a bit, I did start getting rusty, and my second instructor, she helped me a lot, working on my maneuvers, and so did my auntie. literally I stopped practicing my general driving for like the last 3 lessons I had. Really, it's just that I was just trying to perfect my like parallel park. It just went to shit for some reason, and like I just needed to sort it out, and you can only do that by repeating it over and over again. And if I'm being 100% honest with you guys, like I still was kind of nervous doing the parallel park, but like I'm a confident guy, so I went through it. And in my actual driving test, I like had a parallel park. I did it. I'd messed up, but I still managed to salvage it to pass, because I hit the curb, but it wasn't like a bang, that type of thing that like could have damaged the car. It was literally just a tiny little bump whoop, on the curb, and then I just went back out, did it all again, and like I got it right the second time, perfect, and then we went off and I passed my driving test. On the subject of driving tests, me and my dad, we tried to like cheat the system basically by paying an external company to help us like book a driving test faster, called Pass Me Fast. They were a waste of time and a waste of money, and we ended up getting a refund, because after like 2 weeks they were still just chatting nonsense, trying to say that, oh, we're trying our best, blah 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 blah. So we just asked for a refund because it didn't make sense. And like I would ask you guys to steer away from companies like that. Instead, use this app. Like I'm not affiliated to this app at all. It's just the one that I used, I paid for, and like it worked for me twice, because that's how I booked my first test and my second test. It cost like £19 to use, but it helped me book my first and second test, as I've just said. I just auto booked all the times that I was available to like do the driving test, and then it literally just sent me an email telling me that like they've auto booked me for X day, and I was over the moon. After I failed my first driving test, yes, I failed. Even though it's not ideal, I've got no shame in saying that I didn't pass first time. And if you want to understand like the whole reason why, like the whole shebang, watch the first video I made. Like honestly, it'll make sense. It's the best video I've done in like the past month or so, and like it's doing alright. So you guys should check it out once again. So I was able to do my driving test 2 weeks after my first failure because of this app. So that's why I'm just advocating it for it so much. And obviously, before booking your driving test, be confident in your abilities. I'm not saying that you need to be like test standard. Like I knew when I booked for my first test that I wasn't test standard, so to speak. But I had the anticipation that like in like a month and a half's time, which the test was that like I would have been ready. And I do feel like I was ready for that test, but obviously I messed up. Then in the second test, I booked it straight away and I got it and I passed. Now, when the test comes, obviously be confident still, but be mindful. Like hopefully during all your driving lessons or driving around with like a family member or something, you've been like strict with yourself. I pretended as if every time I stepped into the car was a driving test, and I think I picked up good habits, which I'm still gonna do most of the time when I'm driving. Like when you're about to overtake someone, check the mirror. Go slowing down, check the center mirror, like mirror signal. Everything you do when you're in the car needs to be purposeful, and that's what I advise you guys to think about when you're going through your test. So for your driving test, you gotta feel confident, yeah, but it's natural. Even happened for me. Like you get nervous. Like for the first test, I got really nervous, and then for my second test, like I only started feeling nervous like when I was driving into the driving center. But eventually, after a while, like my nerves calmed down. And what helped was me talking to the exam teacher person. Like he was a nice guy. He would ask me questions from time to time, like how old am I, what am I doing for school, if I'm working, all that. Just having like this little bit of chit chat instead of like staying in awkward silence for the whole time, which I actually did in my first test. So that is something that I like want you guys to try to do. If it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you, but it worked for me. Just talk, have a nice little chat. Obviously, your main focus while you're on the road is the road, but having a little chat from time to time, yeah, isn't gonna do you any harm. And it's like, if you're friendly with the exam person, maybe they'll be friendly back and be nicer, less harsh to you in the test. Now, as I conclude this video, just want to say that if you don't pass first time, that's okay. Like, not many people actually pass first time. If you do, well done, let me know in the comment section. But if you don't, life goes on, yeah. Just dust yourself off and try again. And by the time of your next driving test, be sure to be like confident in what you failed on last time. That's how you set yourself up for success, alright? Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, leave a like and subscribe to join the family. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.